Newsfirst.lk.
Good morning and welcome to Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And on a middling morning, we're joined by Mr. Komin Dasri, that eminent legal personality. Very good morning to you, Mr. Dasri.
Thank you.
And welcome to Newsline. It is always a pleasure to have you. Have you been on any of your mountaineering or train journeys recently?
Well, I'm about to take off on the Trans-Siberian.
On the Trans-Siberian Railway? Have they got the internet working there?
I hope not.
You hope not?
Because I want to read War and Peace.
Well, you'll be able to watch, if you had the internet, you'll be able to follow Newsline live, www.tv1.lk. Press the live button, and you'll be able to see whatever is live. But whatever is live, what is live today, in these several days, is obviously Bond. Not James Bond, but Treasury Bond. What is your take on all this?
Let me first give you something. You're too modest, because I think you're Mr. Bond here, because you were the man who broke this story, and I think much of the credit should go to you for exposure. But you're too modest to say it, so I got to say it. You were the first to start it, and you are the one who kept on pressing, and I think it's a great achievement for the media, especially Sirasa and MTV, for carrying on the story.
Well, thank you very much for your kind sentiments. The story was first reported in one of the papers, but it would be fair to say that our network has anchored the entire process and kept it in the public eye.
But Mr. Humpty Dumpty, I think you're going to have a great fall, because from now on I think it is going to be a bipartisan defense of the bond, because too many people, too many parties, opposition, joint opposition, government, everybody is in this game.
You've said it.
And there's so much money circulating around. I don't know whether we will get any further success in this matter.
Not if we can help, of course, because we're the People's Channel. And the people's interest surely is the overriding factor. But you're absolutely right, Mr. Dasri. You've hit the nail on its proverbial head.
It's the people's money that I'm concerned. What is most affected is these are EPF funds, and remember, EPF is the poor man's fund. Now the big organizations, say John Keel's or some of the bigger companies, they have their own private provident fund. They are not affected. The big banks, the state banks, they have their pension schemes, so they don't have provident fund. So it's the poor man, the poor companies, the smaller people who are affected, and it's their money that has got involved in all these bond issues. And I'm extremely sad that some of the things that the present government, when in the opposition, made so much noise about this pump and dump. Now, what are they talking about?
That's right. I must say this. We have on record, and there are various reports in the printed media, on websites and so on. Dr. Harshad Siva was a very vocal, as he is well known for being, very vocal on the matter of various share transactions and the so-called pumping and dumping, including one particular share, all to do with lifts. But anyway, he was very vociferous then, and actually I'm wondering, last night after Faith to Nation, we had a little informal discussion, and somebody asked me, what has happened to the SEC? What indeed, Mr. Karunaratne, I know that you're listening, and it's time you came on our network, on our program, because we like having you. After all, you came regularly, and we are still wondering what happened to those 12 files. We haven't forgotten. We trust you haven't either. I know you've been busy changing the rules and so on, drafting the new rules, but there's been significant silence on the part of that. And the same goes to the FCIB. Significant silence on matters of share trading and pumping and dumping. We know that they've done other things, and we know that you have limited resources, but the public have not forgotten. The pumping and dumping we need answers to that. It was one of the big accusations during the last government. So we'd like to hear your responses. But isn't that what you're saying?
More than that, it's the eerie silence, not just silence. What about all these commissions that were appointed by this government under the 19th Amendment, which was so touted by the civil society? Now we have something called the Bribery and Corruption Commission. Now, have you heard of them? What are they doing? I mean, we have seen Dilrukshi Dias resigning. She was only an officer. She was the head of the Bribery and Corruption Department.
Yeah.
But there is a commission above her, and that commission is appointed none other than by the Constitutional Council. Now, we have so many commissions. I think the 19th Amendment is a total failure because we don't hear any effective work done by any commission. I think my answer is they are too old. For example, I think Mr. Veerasuriya, who heads the Bribery and Commission, is a very good man when he was a judge. But now I'm sure he's over 75. I mean, at that age, I don't know how effective he could be. You need younger people who are dynamic, who can get on with the job. So the law itself requires retired Supreme Court judges. Retired Supreme Court judges are very ornamental, but are they effective? Even during the last years, few months of, they are generally left to write their judgments. So in that context, I feel that the 19th Amendment is a total failure because worse than that is the fact that for 4.5 years this government is assured, the parliamentarians are assured of a life 4.5 year period in office. Even if you bring a vote of no confidence, you can't remove them, you can't have a general election unless 2/3 of the members decide, and nowhere can you get 2/3.
Is that because I'm usually very suspicious and skeptical on these matters, and I'm sitting here listening to what you say, and I'm wondering, because I also love statistics, and one such statistic is that our present Prime Minister, although he is the 4th time round Prime Minister of this country, has never actually been able to complete a full term. For whatever reason, okay? I'm not going into the reasons. And now I'm thinking to myself, well, the chances are pretty good that he's going to be here for 4.5 years because of what you just pointed out, because of the 19th Amendment.
The 19th Amendment, I mean, you can't, even if the government loses office, they'll have to reassemble themselves within the parliament confines and have another government. So, I mean, the whole idea of losing a budget, a vote of no confidence, none of those will help you at all unless you get the 2/3 majority. Now, no 2/3, that you'll never get that because the parliamentarians won't want to get their period of office shortened. So it's an absolutely horrible piece of legislation, 19th Amendment. The only thing we look forward was the independent commissions. Now they are shown to be totally worthless.
Ms. Dasik, can we cast our minds now and our thoughts to the COPE report? After 18 months of intense public agitation and media attention, led of course by our network, what a jolly good team we are, even if I have to say so myself. Anyway, it is finally, we've had a few, we'll have to call them quick wins. We were able to focus the President's attention on public reaction to the continued role of Arjuna Mahendran, the hand-picked governor of the central bank, who was serving the end of Mr. Cabral's term. And when that term came to an end, our president decided not to give him a new contract. That was well done, you know, bravo. But thereafter we've been plodding away, and finally the COPE report. And most people seem to say, well, now what's going to be the next subject? And I say to them, it's still the same thing. We're still on bond. Because obviously, Mr. Dasri, the way it appears to me is that Mr. Mahendran and our Prime Minister, our dear Prime Minister, have bonded very well indeed. And they have been bonding for several years now. But the point is, this is not their private business. We have the COPE report, we have what the Prime Minister said in Parliament. The COPE report faults Mr. Mahendran, and the Prime Minister said in Parliament that it was he who instructed the change from the private stroke direct placement to a straight auction system.
Yes, for us, it's a case of Dr. No and Mr. Yes. If you look one terminology, if I may go further, there are not only one report, we have three reports. We have the COPE report, we have the Auditor General's report, we have the Central Bank report, which are supposed to have leaked out. Now, with all these three reports in hand, it's up to the monetary board and the governor of the central bank presently to look into this very rapidly and transfer it to the Attorney General. Now, that is where the hitch is going to start.
Yes. Is that the right procedure? Why Attorney General? Why not the police?
It's not necessary for police because already the investigations have been done by the Auditor General. Going to the police will be another waste of time. I think.
But all these others, sorry to interject here.
Yes.
But all these others have made almost a pilgrimage of going to the FCID and then being remanded, and then the investigation carries on. So why can't we have Mr. Mahendran remanded?
You can get Mr. Mahendran remanded, but whether that will happen is another question, because my own fear is this is not only the former governor. We have to go back to the time when Perpetual Chatuities got their dealer license.
Yeah.
Now that was in, I believe, 2013.
That's right.
Now 2013 was a different administration, not Mahendran. It was under Cabral. Now, Cabral was, if you remember, is one of the first persons to have his passport impounded, but we have no investigations or nothing done at all. I don't think he has even been brought before the FCID. Now, the question is, why is that? Because if a man is not found guilty, he must be exonerated. He must be let loose. People must know that he has done nothing wrong, or he must be committed. You can't keep it in media like this. It's unfair by the man.
That's right.
And also remember, look at the board of directors. Who are the directors of Purple Chatuities at the time they got the license? That's very important. There's one particular person who is common. I don't want to mention names to embarrass anybody. But that's what you got to look. You got to look. Why was Purple Chatuities given the only one of the very few licenses during that last period of the Cabral regime? Now all these require answers, just as much as we require answers as to what happened to these funds that were belonging to the...
But Mr. Dasri, isn't there a danger then? You see, all these, there was reference to 30 COPE reports during the Rajapaksa years, and the claim that nothing had been done. But I want to say this, that in all these other reports, the difference between this report and that is that in this report, in this observation on the central bank's bond matter, COPE has been able to identify who is responsible. The Auditor General has been able to quantify that loss at the moment, and so all the evidence is there.
So that is the very reason I say all the evidence is there. Certainly the Auditor General can do a much better job, and all credit to his department, they have done an excellent job. Now the thing is, this is where the block is going to take place. Give it to Council, give it to Attorney General's department. Now there are so many matters that charges have been made against bribery and corruption. Can you name one single case where evidence has been laid in court? Now what is it? Now we are coming just 2 years under. My belief is this is a matter that should be given to special prosecutors, where the government should select. It has happened before. If you remember the Bandaranaike murder case, we had a very eminent counsel in George Chitty. He conducted the case. Last government, I can tell you, I was entrusted with several cases which I had the total support of the Attorney General's department in carrying out. Of course, I did not take any fees because I thought that will compromise. I mean, this government has more counsel than a few. I mean, there are so many good governance councils oscillating around. They could help them. So I think what we need is fast action. Otherwise, all these things will get swept under the carpet because for us, this is from now on, we will see it's a bipartisan effort to get these things completely clean.
I have two questions, but all right, we'll tell you that first. Question number one. This viewer has not sent us questions for a few weeks. Perhaps he was on holiday, or he or she, anyway. Yesterday, Dio Gunasekara stated that he is aware that the Attorney General's Department is coming to a decision that the bond matter is purely a civil transaction and that there is no criminal intent in same. What do you have to say about it?
Well, I have respect for the present Attorney General. I think he should, I don't know whether this is speculative, but now he cannot say anything because there are three reports by people who know much more than the FCID about financial transactions, the Auditor General, the Central Bank report, and the report of COPE. Now, with all these evidence with them, with definite, very strong findings by the COPE, with the UNP as subsequently at a very late stage decided to take a 180-degree turn, and now they are saying that even that is not strong enough, having not endorsed it according to newspaper reports earlier. Now, why is it that you need any further evidence? Attorney General should now decide if he wants evidence, he can collect it. Now, for us, remember, there are cases. I can name one case, the Udulagama Commission war crimes. The case went day to day. I think Sirasa went recorded most of it on television, live. And there was a very able counsel for the Aegis Department, Jasanta Kodagoda, I must name him. He led evidence day to day. So why can't they do day-to-day trials on some of these, the bond matter or any of these allegations that have been made in court?
Can I ask you this? Is it possible for you, I'm just asking you because you're a legal man, is it possible for you to litigate in the public interest on this matter, on the court matter?
It is possible because of somebody has to have a legal standing, locus standi, and this is public funds, the EPF funds. So it is possible for somebody to go and file action, but I would recommend that it not be done, because if you remember, two good Samaritans went to court against Arjuna Mahendraji, one was Chandra Jayaratna, and some counsel misled them, I suppose, and that action was dismissed on a preliminary matter.
Yes,
so, and what did Mahendran say? He said he was found innocent by court. He was not. It was on a technical preliminary objection.
He was not.
But that is why in this matter, some responsible
But on that score, the Greek bonds, I mean, people keep going on about the Greek bonds. Our finance minister's response, part of his response on this matter, on this bond matter, was that he said, well, why aren't you talking about the Greek bonds? Well, you know, I'm sorry, but we have been talking about the Greek bonds. Perhaps he's not been listening. But more importantly, Mr. Dasri, you'll be aware that the Supreme Court have looked into this, the complaint on the Greek bonds matter, and there is a judgment. And it's been signed off by no less a personality than the Chief, who is now the person who is the Chief Justice, Mr. Sripavan.
So, yes, but as far as Mr. Sripavan has also written a coal tar judgment.
Yes. So
you know what happened in that? So don't just give names of judges and say that is the end of the matter. Because
but no, but once the Supreme Court's may looked into it, that's it, isn't it?
In a sense, yes. In a sense, no. Because you can always have a revival. Now, for example, the coal tar, I mean, I think one of the judgments that absolutely went against a very, it was contradictory.
Yes, so we're hoping to report on that during the week, actually, to bring our viewing public up to speed with what's happening on that coal matter. But back to this present bond. Now, we have the COPE report. We have a complaint to the Bribery Commission lodged yesterday about Mr. Mahendran and the Prime Minister as well. Is it possible? Is there a legal mechanism for the Minister in charge of the subject to stand aside, apart from resigning?
What I fear for us is that there may be too many hands putting their fingers on this whole carcass.
Right.
And what will happen is that nothing will come out of it. Now the JVP is saying they are going to file action. The joint opposition goes to the FCID. The central bank may go to the Attorney General. So there will be conflict in interest. There must be teamwork in this. What people want is results, not they want a definite answer. So that we must have a court established where day-to-day proceedings take place, where the accused have equal rights of defending themselves, a fair trial, natural justice to be observed, and finally a verdict. And that must be a verdict that is acceptable, not like that coal tar verdict. Just because the Chief Justice signs a document, that doesn't make the story put it to an end, because
right.
that also can be challenged in different ways.
Another question from a viewer. What is the relevance of getting a license and the transaction that took place in 2015?
The license, I believe, was given in 2013. That was under a different regime.
Yeah.
This transaction took place under the present government, and the present government has been accused of several efforts to distance themselves from the transaction, and I think it is very wrong for Mr. Mahendran to hold office of any sort after that damning report of the COPE, where UNP members were compelled to sign, and they have now today very strongly coming in favor of the report.
But isn't it a situation where the Prime Minister is exercising his prerogative and flashing Mr. Mahendran around and introducing him to world leaders and dignitaries overseas? Isn't that the Prime Minister's way of sending a message saying, I believe that he's clean?
It gives many messages, but none of those messages are hygienic to me. In fact, if you ask me, it is best that the people in authority distance themselves. In fact, I think if not for the intervention of the President, we would not have a man like Kumarasamy now as governor. Mr. Kumarasamy is also too laid back. It's time that he also gets into the action. He cannot just say, this is the work of my successors. It is his duty to put the central bank, the monetary board, give them that clean, good image it always enjoyed in the past. So I think he has a good choice, but he could be a better choice if he acts properly. And that's fast. Rapid action is what is needed. My real fear is the JVP may put their hands in it. The joint opposition will all want to get some political mileage in the process. This whole exercise will collapse. That's why I said, Mr. Humpty Dumpty, we are going to have a great big fall from now on.
Who should take action on the COPE report? Is it the Speaker? Is it the Prime Minister? Who?
The first person who should get involved in is the Attorney General. He must
but how does the Attorney General know to take that on? Who tells him?
The monetary board, not the governor. The monetary board must now take a decision with all the reports before them, and that decision can only be one decision.
What role does Parliament has? Now these reports have been presented to the Speaker. What next in terms of
Parliament can have a debate. Then debate, and at the end of the debate...
Has the Prime Minister got any legal standing to send the COPE report to the Attorney General's Department without the concurrence of the House, without having a debate in the House, without getting the Speaker involved?
Not only the Prime Minister, even the President can do that. President or the Prime Minister can definitely say, I'm satisfied with the evidence. It's up to you to study and see what legal advice you should give the state. So I think not only the Prime Minister, President or the Finance Minister, all three of them have the right, but I think the proper party to act would be the Monetary Board, because they said they will await the decision and then take a decision. And so now we have the COPE report. There's no further material that is required, because the Auditor General I'm proud of people like that. This country still has hope, because we have things like a select committee. Now that's thumbs up for democracy, because all this time much of this was placed under the carpet. at least now we have young, enthusiastic members of parliament pushing this forward. What we need is a change of leadership. I think both the government and the joint opposition must get away with their present leaders, whether it is Mahinda Rajapaksa or Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Is it time that Ranil Wickremesinghe resigned, at least temporarily, to pave the way for an independent inquiry into this bond matter?
I think he should resign, and I think Mahinda Rajapaksa also has had 2 terms. I think he should gracefully retire from politics and become an elder statesman, because he has a major role to play.
But I think Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa is not relevant to the bond matter.
He is not, you can't say he is not relevant to the bond matter, because Purple Chetuities in 2013 got their license when he was there, when Mr. Nihad Cabral was there. Then you got to see what the relationships between the Purple Chetuities. I think that is why I am a little skeptical whether anything will come at all, because it's possible for people to act in unison.
Isn't the best solution to have an independent presidential commission on this, question mark?
That would be another very useful idea. Without having a court, you can have an independent presidential commission under the you can have a special presidential commission under special presidential laws, or you can have a commission of inquiry under the Commission of Inquiry Act. That is possible. If you want fast action, that's another possibility. But you must then appoint respectable, eminent, independent people to head that commission.
Isn't the fastest methodology to put an end to this saga, isn't it best if the Minister of Finance in his forthcoming budget imposes a 100% tax over a certain threshold on all primary dealers? So anyone who's made over ₹1 billion will have to pay 100% in tax as a special tax to the Treasury, just like the Finance Minister imposed a super gain tax on companies that had made over ₹2 billion in, I think, the tax year 2014.
Yes, it is possible, because retrospective legislation can be brought in the case of taxation.
Indeed, and that way the money, this 100% taxes on the, and it can be imposed going all the way back to 2009 perhaps, and to include all those transactions and profits that would have accrued to primary dealers since 2009, over ₹1 billion, and a super gains tax 100% over the difference. And then we'll like to see if we have set the cat amongst the pigeons. So, Mr. Minister of Finance, why don't you do that? Why don't you impose a special super gain tax on all primary dealers going back all the way to 2009? Just like you did with the other companies.
Wishful thinking, but I think you have a 3-year prescription period, so 2009 may be still possible.
Right, well there you are, because you see, when he imposed the super gains tax, he did refer to ill-gotten gains and unusual profits, and you know, that was without any inquiry. And here, in this matter, we have an inquiry. We have observations by COPE. The evidence, the oral evidence is there, made under oath, the Auditor General's report, and as you rightly say, the Central Bank report, which has somehow been leaked and never denied.
But what is interesting is the governor of the central bank was more interested in finding out who leaked it than to get to the bottom of the huge deficit in the monies that should have gone into private hands in the EPF.
That could have been perhaps better handled from a PR angle. But you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles. But okay, here we go. Another question. They can recover the 14.3 billion and do away with the VAT for the next year, as the VAT income forecasted is probably less than that. Well, that's an interesting thought, Mr. or Mrs. or Miss viewer. But in the meantime, sadly, we've come to the end of our morning with Mr. Govind Dayasri. Mr. Dayasri, thank you very much for being on Newsline. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope you enjoy your Trans-Siberian journey.
Thank you,
And I
Faraj.
do hope the internet works, because then we can bug you with questions. In the meantime, thank you for watching Newsline. Have an excellent rest of the week ahead of you. Take care and God bless.